Good morning, everyone. Welcome to your English Literature live class. We have been doing the story The Model Millionaire, which has been written by Oscar Wilde. And we did a half portion of the story yesterday, and we'll be continuing with the next half. So let us read from where we left. That is page number 91, the last paragraph. The old beggar man took advantage of Trevor's absence to rest for a moment on a wooden bench. He looked so forlorn and wretched that Hughie could not help pitying him, and felt in his pocket to see what money he had. All he could find was a sovereign and some coppers. Right. So, as we had discussed yesterday, that a servant had come to call Alan Trevor and informing him that a frame maker wanted to talk to him. So Alan Trevor leaves the studio, and in the absence of Alan Trevor, the beggar who was posing for Trevor, he takes the advantage that for the meanwhile the painter is not there, so that he could rest for a while, right? So he takes rest for a while, and seeing his condition, seeing his appearance, uh, Hughie Erskine feels really bad for him, and he wanted to help the beggar. So, in order to do that, what he does, he puts his hands in his pockets, and he tries to feel that if he had something to offer to the beggar. And what he finds that he had a sovereign. Sovereign is again an old British coin, which has the value equal to a dollar. Sorry, a pound. Okay, and some copper. So copper in that time, it were those were the coins of lowest denomination. Okay, so far we have studied about shillings, sovereign, and coppers, and of course guineas. Okay, guineas were the gold coins, if you remember, and sovereign was again a British coin, which has the value equivalent to a pound, and coppers were the coins of lowest denominations, right? So these two things he finds in his pocket, that is sovereign and coppers. Poor old fellow, he thought to himself. He wants it more than I do, but it means no hansoms for a fortnight. So he thinks that more than himself, the beggar required the money, he needed the money. But if again the second thought comes across his mind, that if he will offer that amount to the beggar, then he would have to walk to his home. That means he would not have money to go by the horse driven cab. All right. So if he had to hire horse driven cab, then he had to have that much amount of money. But if he will offer that money to the beggar, then he will be left with nothing, and he will have to walk to his house, right? No hansoms for a fortnight means that only, that he will not have money to hire that horse cab. He walked across the studio and slipped the sovereign into the beggar's hand. So he gives the sovereign to the beggar. The old man startled. Right here, it is a misprint. It is written started. Just write down startled. Startled. So the old man startled, and a faint smile flitted across his withered lips. Thank you, sir, he said. Thank you. So after Hughie gives the sovereign to the beggar. The beggar was very pleased, and he smiles. First of all, he was taken by surprise that Hughie was offering him money, and then he was very much pleased. He smiled, right, and he thanked Hughie for his generosity or for the charity he made. Then Trevor arrived, and Hughie took his leave, blushing a little at what he had done. He spent the day with Laura, got a charming scolding for his extravagance, and had to walk home. So now, after all this, Trevor comes and Trevor was not the witness of the charity made by Hughie Erskine that was made in his absence, right? So when Trevor comes, then Hughie takes his leave. He leaves the studio and he goes on to meet Laura, and he tells all this story to Laura. And Laura, she scolded him a little bit for him being spendthrift, okay, because he gave all the money in charity, and then he had to walk home, walk home, okay. That night he strolled into the Palette Club about 11 o'clock and found Trevor sitting by himself. So while he was walking, he was wandering on the street. He went into a club named as Palette Club, and it was about 11 o'clock. Okay, and he found Trevor. He was sitting by himself. That means he was sitting alone. Well, Alan, did you get the picture finished all right? He said. So he asked him, Hughie asked Alan about the picture, about the portrait he was making of the beggar. Finished and framed, my boy. So Trevor informs him that he had finished also and he had got it framed also. But you have made a conquest. That old model you saw is quite devoted to you. I had to tell him all about you, who you are, where you live, what your income is, what prospects you have. So while they were having this conversation, who were having the conversation? Hughie and Alan. Okay, so Hughie and Trevor were having this conversation about the painting. Now next, Alan tells Hughie that he has made a victory by because that old man, he was so much influenced and he was so much inspired by Hughie that he was asking about him all the time, and Alan had to tell the beggar everything about Hughie. He had to tell him his name, who he was and where he was from, and all about his financial status, and the all about the prospects, mean all the opportunities he had for success and wealth. I mean all the chances he had, right? So everything he told, he had to tell the beggar because the beggar was quite inquisitive and he was very eager to know about the Hughie Erskine. My dear Alan, cried Hughie, I shall probably find him waiting for me when I go home. So Hughie thinks that the old beggar was interested in him because Hughie had given him a sovereign, so he might be expecting some more charity from Hughie. So he thinks that he wanted more money or more things from Hughie. So he says that he shall be waiting for him. Okay, poor old wretch. I wish I could do something for him. I have got heaps of old clothes at home. Do you think he would care for them? Why, his rags were falling to bits. So he thinks he wishes that he could do something for the beggar, but he did not have much money. So he thinks of the old heap of clothes which he had, and he also wonders that if the beggar would care about the clothes, because what the condition of the beggar was very bad. If you remember, he was wearing rags and it was all torn and worn out clothes. So he was thinking that it would be a good idea, Hughie was thinking that it would be a good idea if he offers his clothes to the beggar. But he looks splendid in them, said Trevor. I wouldn't paint him in a frock coat for anything. What you call rags, I call romance. What seems poverty to you is picturesqueness to me. Okay, so now while he was feeling pity, Hughie was feeling pity on the condition of the beggar. Trevor said that the rags made him look splendid. The made him look magnificent, because that was the thing which he wanted to paint. Okay, he was being very practical. Trevor was being very practical, that he would not paint in a beggar in a fancy dress. Okay, a beggar had to be dressed up in such clothes only which he was wearing, in rags and tattered clothes, right? We do not see any beggar in well suited. Okay, so that is what was the point made by Trevor here, that he would never paint a beggar in frock coat, that means in a fancy dress, okay, and the rags were perfect, it looked perfect on him. And what he called rags, Hughie called rags. For Alan it was romance. Here romance means the feeling of excitement, okay. It felt special that that kind of clothes, they went well with beggar, okay. And his poverty, it seemed vivid and pleasing for him, okay. As I told you yesterday, that such kind of paintings, okay, his condition and his and his physical appearance, the physical appearance of beggar, that were to the up to the mark, okay, and that were quite good enough to attract the attention of the uh, visitors, who would attract the attention of those who would see the painting of a beggar. Alan, said Hughie seriously, you painters are a heartless lot. So, as we know that Hughie was a kind-hearted man, so he was feeling really bad at the condition of the beggar. But at the same point, Alan was countering his statements by saying that no, it was all perfect with him. So he calls him very practical, and he says that painters are all a group of heartless people, and you people are really heartless. You don't have to do anything with the emotions. You just seek for the for good condition, or good, like good can be in any way. Doesn't mean that like he was painting a beggar, okay, so that doesn't mean that he should be in a very well dressed and properly dressed. So painters, the eyes of the painter, they look for the genuine things, okay, and they don't feel pity on such things. So that is why he called him heartless. An artist's heart is his head, replied Trevor. And now tell me how Laura is. The old model was quite interested in her. You don't mean to say you talked to him about her? Asked Hugh. Certainly I did. He knows all about the relentless Colonel, the lovely Laura, and the 10,000 pounds. Now he tells him that first of all he asks him about Laura, and then he tells him that the old beggar was also very much interested in Laura, and everything about. He was also interested in his love story. Okay, so at this, Huey was very much surprised. He said that you were not supposed to tell all these things to the beggar. And then Trevor tells that he has not only told about his love story, but also about the condition which was laid down by the colonel, and the 10,000 pounds and everything about you. So then it this brought resentment to Huey, and he was quite angry at Trevor for this. You told that old beggar all my private affairs, cried Huey, looking very red and angry. So this made him very angry, because Trevor told each and every detail of Huey's private life to some beggar. My dear boy, said Trevor, smiling, that old beggar, as you call him, is one of the richest men in Europe. He could buy all London tomorrow without overdrawing his account. He has a house in every capital and dines off gold plates. The old man you saw today in the studio was Baron Hosbert. He is a great friend of mine, buys all my picture and that sort of thing, and gave me a commission to paint him as a beggar. And I must say, he made a magnificent figure in his rags, or perhaps I should say, in my rags. Right? So, because Huey was pointing to that man as beggar every time. So finally, Trevor discloses the beggar's identity, and he tells him that the beggar was not a beggar. Actually, he was one of the richest men in Europe, and he had such a big amount of money with him that he could buy all London, the whole London, and still he will have some money left in his bank account, because it has been said over here that he could buy all London without overdrawing his account. Overdrawing means draw draw money from your account in excess of what the account actually holds. So when if he will buy if he will buy all London, still he would have some money. If he would have good amount of money left in his bank account, that means even after buying London, he would not be his bank account would not be overdrawn. Okay. And also further he tells him that he has a house in every capital, and he dines off in gold plates. Okay, his dinner set is all made of gold. And the old man he and the old man which he is pointing out or signifying as a beggar time and again, he is no other but Baron Hosberg. His name was Baron Hosberg, and he was a great friend of Alan Trevor, and he was very fond of painting, and also he only requested Baron has only requested Alan to paint him as a beggar, and he was a very good model, and he appeared very good model in his rags. Okay, rags made him appear really good. But then he says that I must say he made a magnificent figure in his rags. But then he rectifies himself and says, perhaps I should say in my rags. So obviously he was a millionaire, so he would not be having rags with him. The rags were provided to the beggar by Trevor only. So therefore he says that I should say my rags because he provided him with those rags. Baron Hosberg, cried Hughie. I gave him a sovereign, and he sank into an armchair, the picture of dismay. Okay, so he was so much embarrassed at the charity which he had made. Okay, the money which he had given to a millionaire, he gave a sovereign, and it was nothing for a millionaire. Okay, so he was feeling really embarrassed, and by the mere thought of it made him very hopeless. He felt really depressed, and he thinking all these he sings in the armchair. Okay, armchair is this huge chair which is very soft and comfortable with cushions all around, and then sides are there, which support your arms. So that is what an armchair is. Gave him a sovereign, shouted Trevor, and burst into a roar of laughter. If you remember, this charity was made in the absence of Trevor, so he did not know anything about the sovereign. Okay, so when Hughie tells Alan that he offered a sovereign to Baron, this makes him laugh out loud. So he laughed a lot, and he made fun of him that you gave a sovereign to Baron Hosberg, to such a millionaire. I think you should have told me, Alan, and not let me make such a fool of myself, said Hughie sulkily. Okay, so Hughie blames Alan for not telling him, for not informing him, and for not disclosing his identity, the identity of the beggar to him before, because all that while he was feeling he was feeling bad for the beggar, and he was sharing his feelings with Trevor also. But still he did not tell anything to Hughie. So that is what he is now saying, that you should have told me before, and in that way I would have saved myself from making a fool of myself. Okay, so he was feeling very unpleasant at this. Well, said Trevor, it never entered my mind that you went about distributing arms in that reckless way. So he says, Trevor says that I would have never thought, and I would have never even dreamt about you offering arms, because he himself was not in a very good condition. If you remember the financial condition of Hughie Erskine, it was pitiful. Okay, he was a jobless person. So Trevor is saying that he could never even think that a person who himself is jobless, who himself is unemployed, who himself wants money, would go on making distributing arms in this careless way. What a duffer he must think me, said Hughie. Now he thinks that he feels himself to be really stupid because he offered a sovereign to a millionaire. Not at all. He was in the highest spirit after you left, kept chuckling to himself and rubbing his hands together. I couldn't make out why he was so interested to know all about you, but I see it all now. So when it's Huey tells that he's feeling really bad now because he has done such a stupidity of offering a sovereign to a millionaire. Then Trevor tells him that it's nothing like that. The old Baron Hosberg was very much pleased and he was really happy. Okay, he was in the highest spirit. Just underline this and write down lively and cheerful. He was feeling really lively and he was very cheerful after after Huey left his studio, and he kept smiling. He kept laughing quietly to himself, and he was thinking about something. And at that time, I couldn't make out. At that time, Trevor couldn't make out why Baron was so much interested in Huey, but and wanted to know all about him. But now he can make out very easily. That is what he can make out. How, what does he understand? That the charity, the generosity of Huey pleased Baron Hosberg so much. Okay, that he wants to do something for Huey now. That is why he wanted to know everything about Huey. He'll invest your sovereign for you, Huey, pay you the interest every 6 months, and have a capital story to tell after dinner. Now he tells him that the sovereign which Huey offered to Baron Hosberg, that would be invested in his business. Okay, and Huey would be getting an interest for that sovereign every 6 months. Okay, now he has got a source of income that he would be getting and he would be getting an interest on that sovereign for every 6 months. And then in a light mode, he tells that Trevor says that now you will have a story to tell at the parties. Okay, because see, when businessmen they meet at the parties after dinner, they talk about all the if they are into stock exchange or business, they talk about the capital, okay, and the interest. So that is what it has been said over here, that you will have a capital story to tell after dinner. That what his capital was, main amount was a sovereign only, which he gave to the beggar, that is to Baron Hosford. So Trevor says that now you will have a story to tell after dinner, that means at parties. Huey walked home after that, feeling very unhappy and leaving Alan Trevor in fits of laughter. So after um, uh, after this revelation, Huey walks home, okay, and he was very feeling very unpleasant and very unhappy and disgusted. And while Alan, he could not stop his laughter. He was just laughing again and again. He burst into laughter by the thought that Huey had made an offering of a sovereign to a millionaire. The next morning, as he was at breakfast, the servant announced the arrival of a messenger from Baron Hosberg. So the next morning, a servant, somebody from Baron Hosberg's, a messenger from Baron Hosberg's, Hosberg comes to to the house of Hughie Erskine. I suppose he has come for an apology, said Hughie to himself, and he told the servants to show the visitor up. He thinks that the messenger had come to ask Hughie to apologize for what he did last night. Okay, and then he calls the visitor in. An old gentleman with gold spectacles and grey hair came into the room. This is the description of the messenger who had come from Baron Hosberg, and said in a slight French accent, I have come from Baron Hosberg. The Baron, and while he was saying this, Hughie interrupted him in between and said, I beg, sir, that you will offer him my sincerest apologies. Right? So while the messenger was introducing himself, Hughie interrupted him in between and he asked him to offer his apologies to Baron Hosberg. The Baron, said the old gentleman with a smile, has commissioned me to bring you this letter, and he extended a sealed envelope. So he tells that the messenger tells Hughie that Baron Hosberg has asked me to deliver this letter to you, and he gives that sealed envelope to Hughie Erskine. On the outside was written, a wedding present to Hughie Erskine and Laura Merton from an old beggar, right? So that envelope was there, and on the top of it, it was written that it was a wedding gift to Hughie Erskine and Laura Merton from an old beggar. Okay, because he misunderstood him. Hughie misunderstood Baron to be a beggar, so that is what he has written on the outside of the letter. And inside was a check for 10,000 pounds. Now he has this 10,000 pounds with him, which was the condition laid down by Colonel Merton in order to get him married with his daughter. When they were married, Alan Trevor was the best man, and Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast. uh, so now what happens? Now he has 10,000 pounds. So Hughie and Laura got married, and at their wedding, Alan Trevor was the best man, and in Gretchen's wedding, there are best man on the side of the groom, and there are bridesmaid and on the side of the bride. Okay, so he was the best man, and Baron made a speech at the wedding breakfast. So Baron was also present at their wedding, and he made a speech at the breakfast. Millionaire models, remarked Allen, are rare enough, but model millionaires are rarer still. So he says that a model who is a millionaire is rare to find, because a millionaire, they don't go for modeling. So it is rare to find a millionaire who is a model, or a model who is a millionaire. But a model millionaire, that means an ideal millionaire who is a millionaire at heart, are rarer still. Okay, so this is how the story ends, and this shows that we should keep on doing generous deeds. We should be generous enough and kind enough, and our actions will have positive consequences. I hope you people have understood this story. Thank you so much.